We're used to seeing politics in the news and hearing about the Democrat and Republican parties. But have you ever wondered why there are only these two parties? The two-party system has a long history of affecting politics throughout the history of the United States. Politics affects all aspects of our lives in some way, and understanding more of how our political system functions helps us to understand how we can solve our current societal problems. In this speech, I will go over the history of the two major parties and other notable parties, factors that contribute to the continuation of the two-party system, and how the two-party system affects our modern politics. The two-party system has existed in various forms throughout U.S. history, with roots going as far back as the Founding Fathers. Although George Washington warned against partisanship during his presidency, many politicians during his time, including other Founding Fathers, quickly separated into two different groups. These were called the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. According to the U.S. Senate website, the Federalists lost popularity very quickly, leaving only the Democratic Republicans, who later split, creating the Democrats and the Whig Party as an offshoot. The Whig Party didn't last long either, though, which led to the rise of the Republican Party. Although their policies and political stances have changed over the years in many different ways, the Democrats and the Republicans have been the two major parties since the 1860s. The Republican Party nowadays is considered the party of the conservative side of the political spectrum, and the Democrats are on the liberal side, despite each originally having many views that mirrored the other. According to students of history, the parties have gone through many changes as the Democrats switched from being conservative to liberal, and the Republicans switched from being more liberal to being conservative. While the Democrats and Republicans dominate politics today, there are many reasons why there have only been two major parties at any given time throughout U.S. history. The U.S. political system is designed in a way that encourages a two-party political system. The United States elections are decided using a plurality voting system, which encourages consolidation into two parties. According to Ballotpedia, in a plurality voting system, the candidate who wins the most votes in an election wins the election, even if they did not receive a majority of the votes. This leads to only two major parties running candidates to avoid the risk of parties with overlapping supporters splitting their votes and giving the most votes to a third party. There are many smaller parties that run candidates for elections for president and other offices too, but they do not ever get close to winning. This is because voters generally don't choose other candidates than just the major two Democratic and Republican parties, even though sometimes another candidate might align more closely with their values. According to Lawrence, this happens because voters know that the third-party candidate has no chance of actually winning, so they would rather vote for one of the major candidates that more closely matches their values instead of voting for someone else that won't win and then allowing someone who really doesn't match their values to win because they didn't vote for the person that was closer. Not only have the two parties and the two-party system existed for all of U.S. history, the two-party system has changed the course of U.S. politics too. The two-party political system has significant impacts on the way politics plays out in the United States, especially during our current state of political division. The existence of only two parties leads to stronger division between two parties. Division between the two parties has grown stronger in recent years, and there's little overlap between the two parties' viewpoints, which makes it harder for them to work together. This is according to Lee Drutman's article in the Atlantic, in which he outlines how political division in the two-party system has made it harder for problems to be solved in Congress and in the government as a whole. Additionally, politicians sometimes focus more on making the opposition party look bad instead of solving actual problems. Politicians will fail to solve problems so that they can campaign on the problem and blame it on the other party, which is a tactic to keep themselves in power and win elections for their party. There is a long history of having two parties in the United States, and the Democratic and Republican parties have existed in various forms since the mid-1860s and have dominated as the two major parties since then. The way our elections are run are designed in such a way that forces the existence of a two-party system because of the plurality voting system. And finally, the two-party system greatly influences politics and affects the government's ability to solve problems. This long history is an important aspect to the broader aspects of political affairs in the government in the United States, and understanding this is important and is very relevant, especially because there was a major election this week, and politics continues to affect us in many ways. So understanding it better is more important and helps us understand how we can solve problems and what goes on in our government.